Welcome back. On today's episode, Erwin believes we live in a VR game. Why does he believe that? Because we live in a VR game, people. I love some quotes. I can't help myself. I love reading. I love knowledge. I love understanding. And what exemplifies that best? What gets straight to the point doing that the best? Quotes. So from Alan Watts, without the brain, the world is devoid of light, heat, weight, solidity, motion, space, time, or any other imaginable feature. You take your brain out your head, there much reality left? Not exactly. All these phenomena are interactions of vibrations with a certain arrangement of neurons. So neurons and gray matter and vibrations and sound and light and fields and electromagnetism. We see it as physical. Why? Because we think it's physical. We're luminous beings. We are perceivers. We are in awareness. We are not objects. We have no solidity. We are boundless. The world of objects and solidity is a way of making our passage on Earth convenient. Same with time. It is only a description that was created to help us. Some of the books say that the aliens find it funny. They say we're the only race that has invented a way to measure something that doesn't even exist. Time. We, or rather our reason, forget that the description is only a description, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime. The power of our beliefs literally creates reality. And then we all group up together and combine all of those personal realities into a group reality, and what I kind of consider a prime timeline. We are not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. But we have the veil. We have those VR goggles on our face. So we forget. Everywhere that sentient life exists, do they forget? No. Arguably, we're some of the few. And that's one of the things that makes us so dang special, is the forgetting. Earth and us in our third dimension, we are in this crazy little middle point where the only place this sort of existence can exist is this crazy middle point that we are at. We are very special and incredibly lucky to be here. So, virtual reality. I own a VR headset. You play that for a while, you take it off, and you literally have to take a few seconds to reorient yourself back into physical reality. It's not hard to understand after you played VR games enough that we're living in a VR game. It's when we die, we take off the headset, or when we have out-of-body experiences. So our physical existence is literally just emptiness from an atomic view. It's just vast distances of emptiness. We are created from emptiness. Doesn't feel like it. Why? Because that's how our electromagnetism and consciousness is interacting. You meditate a crap ton, you realize that we're in the matrix, you can walk through walls. You just gotta phase out of this physical reality. So while it's completely empty from an atomic view, it is densely packed with universes from a quantum and spiritual view. Many different dimensions, many parallel existences, so many spiritual layers that we exist within. Not to mention all the levels of energy we exist in. So even though physically it's mostly emptiness. From another angle, it's so incredibly densely packed with existence and consciousness that it's pretty hard to fathom. What? How could it be both empty and super jam-packed? This hilarious thing we have called duality. Do I have it in here for later? Oh, well, that's the next part. If duality exists, by its definition, there must also be singularity. So you got the opposites, and then you got the everything is one. But if everything's opposites, how can it be one? If everything's one, how can there be opposites? Figuring that out, helps you understand a lot of things. And you don't even have to figure it out logically. It's just duality. If it exists, singularity also has to exist at the same time. It's like opposite day. If you say it's not opposite day, if it is opposite day, you're saying it's opposite day. If it's not opposite day, then you're saying it's not opposite day. So it's like, you can't have duality without singularity. Near-death experiences. So when we leave our body, we literally just see this as like a meat sack. We don't feel like we have a lot of connection to it. Here, it's like we feel like it's all we are. But then when you're outside of it, you see the nurses trying to revive you, and you're like, why are you guys bothering with that? I'm like floating about, feeling all light and feeling like I'm connected to God. And why are you guys so worried about that meat sack? It's not really even me. That's how a lot of people think in near-death experiences. The body, we are not the body. We are that consciousness that exists outside the body in near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences. All the atheists and scientists think we live in some dead universe. It's like, well, what about near-death experiences? Conspiracy! Conspiracy? What? It's like, it's very well documented. Like, shouldn't you scientists like that sort of thing? And to the gulag with you, science be praised. So, figuring out the singularity and duality, that's a big thing. Another big thing, and then realizing we're spiritual beings, not physical beings, is space and time don't truly exist. Time exists, but it's also all pretty much happening simultaneously. But the future is happening too? Yeah, it's existing more as potentiality until we collapse that wave function. We'll get to later. But it's still just as real as the reality you're experiencing. Space? How do you think ETs get here from many, many, many light years away in other galaxies? Do you think it's faster than light travel? No. It's wormholes, warp gates, stargates, whatever you want to call them. Space is an illusion. We're all technically one. That's why like psychics and stuff, and healers can do their work over long distances, because distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't truly exist. All these things you're talking about, that sounds so complicated. How's there enough time to even pull that off? There's no time, there's no space. Infinite amount of time to plan and to orchestrate this crazy existence we live in. You get rid of the limitations of space and time, you can create whatever you want, and it can be as complex as you want. Co-creators. Not only do we create this reality with our senses, we also help create this reality with our thoughts. Prayer is powerful. Group prayer is world-changing. Our consciousness is incredibly powerful. And once we realize that, practice that, meditate a lot, get our focus down, it's all about where and how strongly you focus. When you're like out of body, when you're, maybe like a higher dimensional ET or some sort of more spiritual being, it's very easy to create. Very easy. But in our denseness, we create, and then we have to bring that creation down into our dense, gross physicalness. So it's a lot harder for us to create. So that's why, we got to use all of our various paraphernalia and gadgets and such. Why there's tons of different ways to interpret this, whether you're reading tea leaves or reading palms or looking at numerology or astrology. Many different ways to read the same information. Because it's kind of tough for us. You're a higher dimensional being, you just know this stuff. You can just think things into creation. For us, it's a little bit harder. Synchronicities. Beings are always watching over us. Generally ones we've lived with, part of our soul group and such. And once you start paying attention to the weird coincidences, they don't stop. So much. The universe speaks. Do you like talking to people who never ever listen to you and ignore you and kind of like sort of half listen to you? Does it feel good when you're trying to talk to someone like that? Do you feel like they care about what you're saying or even really paying attention to what you're saying? No, generally you don't. So why would the universe keep talking to someone who's not listening? You listen to the universe, it is a chatty Cathy. Oh, you're just some crazy narcissist. Why you think the universe is all like shaping itself to you? It does. It does. We listen to the universe, we pray, and then also take action on our prayers, because you got to put the legwork in too. You can't just hope and pray everything to existence. You hope and pray into existence, and then you walk the walk. And those beings and watching over you and the synchronicities in the universe itself helps guide you, leads you to these events that at the time might seem small or might seem like something bad, but eventually it gets you to where you're supposed to go. The day I was supposed to record this, one of the YouTubers I watch, she does VR videos, VR chat specifically. She just got a full body VR suit where there's like rumble, where you can like people can touch you and you can feel it. Same day I'm trying to do we live in a VR video game video. Synchronicities are strange. And then that night, I decided to watch some more David Icke on Gaia, and the episode I picked was that, yeah, we live in a holographic universe. We live in VR. The double slit experiment. So, you get two slits, some space in between them, slits. You shoot particles through them, everything's fine. Photons, particularly what we're talking about, light. But when you do things that are waves, when it goes through, there's an interference pattern and things bounce off each other at different points. So it's not just straight through, it ends up being mostly in the middle, but it's like line, rather than just the two slits that it should be. Because waves will go through it, and then it creates the new like outward wave, and then those eventually hit, and then that causes the interference pattern that then, yeah. goes out and then it hits the thing, and it makes a bunch of different lines rather than just the two slits. And then they realize that depending on if someone was observing it, it'd be a particle if we're observing it. But if we're not, light acts as a wave. Light is both a particle and a wave of potentiality. It's like electrons. We can like see them and measure them, but also at the same time, electrons are just flying around in literal potential existence. It's like they just consider it like a field of electrons. If some of the pictures will, instead of just showing like an electron flying around, it's an electron cloud, a cloud of potentiality. Existence is a particle and a non-physical wave at the exact same time. Singularity, duality. And then on to photons themselves. Photons are more than just how we see things. Things wouldn't exist without photons and the sun. Photons carry information. Photons are almost like the coding of the video game, of the VR. The photons that's how we see that VR world. But like, it's not just for sight. It's for existence itself. At least for our sort of existence. There are probably other universes and such that exist without photons. But for the most part, creation exists because of suns and photons. This doesn't exist without light. Yes, you can be blind and you're still existing. But photons themselves, if you got rid of them, it wouldn't be that we were just blind. It's that like nothing would probably exist because they carry the information, and I assume are heavily connected to many of the spiritual aspects and fields and more metaphysical sciences as well. We wouldn't exist without photons. The sun's an interesting character. Schrodinger's cat. So if you've ever wondered why I'm Erwin, I stole it from Erwin Schrödinger. So technically, I guess my name should be Irvin, but YouTube thinks it's Owen or Ellen, apparently. Schrodinger's cat. You put a cat in a box, you put in basically like a random number generator, but yeah. Essentially. But with decaying. And then it will release a poison and kill the cat. So, it's random. So the cat's in there. So then you open the lid to see if the cat's alive or dead. Which gets into double slit experiment and how sometimes it's a proton, sometimes it's a wave. Well, when it's a wave, but then we, the consciousness, the sentient, see it and it turns particle, that's collapsing the wave function. So Schrodinger's cat, when you open to see if the cat's alive or dead, it's the wave of potentiality. But once you actually open it, you collapse the wave function. So before you open it, is the cat alive or dead? The cat's alive, dead, both, and neither. All at the same time. And if you can wrap your head around that, you understand things a lot better. And so much of our existence is us collapsing our wave function. Not only do we live in a VR game, it's like a personal VR game. We share reality with other consciousnesses, but we have our own personal reality and our own personal universe and existence. and then we combine with others to make basically a shared reality. But then when you get into like parallel universes and stuff like that, a lot of people say any sort of, not even like a major choice, even sometimes just minor choices, creates different timelines. So that way you can experience, if you had made the other choice. So if our specific personal choice creates a new timeline that's, I would allege, is just as real as our prime timeline, then didn't we just create a universe? A universe with other people in it? Is that our universe? Are we God? Can we create our own universes? Yes and yes. And it's not some narcissistic, I am a golden God thing. It is a, we are all God sort of thing. Holographic universe. Holograms. How do they work? Interestingly. But I'm trying, let's keep knocking things out quickly. So the interesting thing I want to mention about holograms is each part contains the whole. You chop off holograms, it doesn't make a part of a hologram. It just makes a smaller version of the entire hologram. There is no space. Everything contains that information from the whole. Each little part contains the whole. It's like a fractal. The thing is our focus just goes in. And it's what we focus on is what's so real. But really, you zoom out, everything is one. All physicality is one. All metaphysicality is one. Spiritually, all one. We're just in the illusion of separation to basically play and learn. I mean, we're like children, we may have to do a transition here. So we are connected to the whole. We are individual, separate beings, but also part of the whole at the same time. Yin and yang, duality, singularity. How about dreams? Oh, do I have another quote? Dreams. When you're in the dream, it seems real. I would argue it's as real as this reality. So who's to say we aren't souls just dreaming, essentially? Dreaming this physical existence, playing in this VR game. From Rumi, this place is a dream. Only a sleeper considers it real. Then death comes like dawn, and you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief. When we die and become back to spiritual beings, the way we see it, that's not death. That is birth. When we come into these lives, that is like death. When we go back to being what we truly are, that is birth. It's like hell doesn't exist on the other side. We are in the hell. We are in the crazy third dimensional muck. Living in the dreams of our higher selves, which exist within the dream of God. Placebo effect. Our mind is incredibly powerful. We can heal ourselves just because we think this thing we're putting in our mouth is gonna heal us. And it's just a sugar pill. Our minds are powerful. Electric universe. Everything is electromagnetics. Everything. That's how astrology works. Giant planets, lots of electromagnetism, gravity. When we're born, they're in different places. It leaves an imprint on us, essentially. Helps shape us. And I would argue we choose that before we're born. The great central sun. Yeah, I gotta read a bit. Transition. All right. From Dolores Cannon's Convoluted Universe. Oh, I've been loving these books. God bless you, Doris. Thank you. The Great Central Sun. Many people describe God and Source as being a giant sun, the Great Central Sun. I think they might be onto something. Aloud. Where are we going? Pause, then becoming emotional. Into the sun! The sun's not exactly what we think it is. You actually go into the middle of it and then you come out the other side, and it's not our sun. It's the sun of all suns. It's the center sun of all suns. Sobbing softly. It's where we have all come from. Sobbing. It's home. We are just pieces of this great central sun that break off and create individuality for ourselves so we can go experience things. So we can learn and play. Because it's great being a great central sun, but it gets a little boring. You can do all this stuff. Why not do a little playing, a little experimenting? Well, if that was home, what are you doing in this place? Asked Dolores. They're like outer stations, they call them. You go to the outer station. She came into this being in some holy-looking city with a bunch of spheres of light around her. And it's essentially when you go from the great central sun to, being a spiritual being about to incarnate and stuff, you have to go through a few processes. I mean, when you're within full godness and then you go into individuality, into like a light sphere, you got to make a little bit of a transition, which is what she's experiencing. And had you come there from somewhere else? Yes, from the sun. It's like when you're in the sun, it's a pool. You have to come out, or you have to come to the outer station to take form. So when you leave the sun and go to the outer station, you are just these spheres? Oh my gosh, yes, that's it, because you don't have form. I was seeing it the other direction, but yes, that's it. We're in the sun, when you're in the sun, you have no form. It's like in stages, when you come out, you don't have form. So there are certain things you have to do to create that form, to create that individuality, to create that duality within singularity. It's almost like you coalesce, you come together. So when you're in the sun, you have no form. When you leave it, it's like the idea of when beings of great power, you destroy them, like Dr. Manhattan style. They eventually realize they have some consciousness, and then they use that to coalesce and pull themselves back into existence with their blue dicks. Dr. Manhattan. The pieces come together to make a form which you are in now. And you can't do it all at once. It's almost like it's in stages. You have to go to this one place first, and then it coalesces, and then you go. So when you're with this light, the sun, you don't have any form at all? No, it's like the sea. It's funny because it's very bright, but it's not hot, which is how everyone describes it. And even though it's very bright, it doesn't hurt your eyes. White light at the end of the tunnel. But it's moving. You would think it'd be chaotic, but it's not. Everything is chaotic. Everything is chaotic. But you zoom out and you get that bigger picture, and it's just simplistic beauty. You said it is not the sun of our solar system. No, it's the sun of all suns. This is the way many of my clients have described Source or God. I think they're onto something. Then why do you leave that to go to these outer stations? Because we want to. Laugh. That's so funny. Because we want to. It's almost like we're little children or something. It's very light and very blissful. Yes, it's almost like when you're a little kid and you want to go explore. Your parents are like, well, be safe out there. But they don't want to meddle. They want you to go out there. They want you to learn. They want you to experience, explore, grow. Yes, it's almost like when Oh, yeah. And there's so much excitement around it. It just makes your heart dance like a little child. It's playing. So you want to go play. You want to go play a VR video game. And they let you do this? They let you leave? It's not even let. It's so interesting because when you say they let you, it's like we all decide and we go because we have a group consciousness. Even on the other side, even we also have a group consciousness. It's not just that you decide where you're going to go for your next life. It's kind of a group decision, but that group is you. So it's your decision, but it's also a group decision. Duality, singularity. You are the particle and the wave. And then you go to the outer station and become the sphere as your first form. Actually, you start to take form before you even hit the outer station. It's so interesting. I see the sun, and there's like these beautiful fingers of light coming out. And they're just beautiful. It's like these fingers of light come out, and then they start to come together into this amazing moving shape of color. And then they come to these orbs of light. Then it finally forms into an orb? Exactly. Yes. So we are God. And then we decide we want to go play the VR video game. So we separate from God, even though we are never truly separate. We always have that connection the same way we have that silver cord that connects us to our body when you go out of body. On a soul level, we still always have that silver cord that attaches us to God and to the source energy. And then we come out into this VR video game to play. Why do we exist? Because God got bored and wanted to play. And then, since we started creating, there's different ways to create. God hadn't created that sort of stuff before. So we're always learning, always growing, always trying to gain knowledge. And then we use that knowledge to tweak our creation and our existence. They say that, the universe grows, but then eventually, after expanding for a long time, it starts contracting. And then eventually, everything physical and metaphysical go back into God. And then you chill for a little bit. You're like, all right, here's all this stuff we learn. Then you use that to influence your next creation, tweak it, try to get things a little more right. Or if things went a little too easy, a little too good, maybe you want to tweak it and make things a little harder. And that's why we exist, to play. God was bored. The little children were like, oh, we want to go out and play. We're tired of being cooped up. Fauci won't let us leave. And then since we go out and play, we have this creation and we're always learning and tweaking and revising it. And it's beautiful. And let's see what ultimately I wrote. Everything is consciousness. There's no space, there is no time, there is God. We have individuality within the God, but still that is also mostly an illusion. We are existing within the mind of God, the ultimate meditator and lucid dreamer. This exists only because we and God, redundant, are focusing on it existing. It's like higher dimensional beings, when they create, it's by focusing their thoughts, and then it becomes reality. That's all this is. It's God focusing on creation. Lucid dreaming, essentially. It's all about focus and where you put it. We zoom in on that band, and it seems like there's all this separation and duality. But really, you zoom out, and it's all the same band. It's all one. We zoom in on here, and we experience this sort of existence. Finish that off, zoom out. zoom back in on this sort of consciousness and mode of reality. Literally, basically playing different VR games. But it's all one. It's just that it's where we focus on that band of existence and creation. Then also there's no time, so technically all that focusing is all also happening at the same time and within the same space. And it's all to learn and to grow, so we're adding DLC essentially to the VR game. And it's all done without the confines of time and the separation of space. We are all ultimately just that great central sun that sends its energy out to create other suns. Those suns then create us, the planets in existence. And it's freaking beautiful. We are that individual particle, but we're also the potential wave. And we have a lot more control over it than the elite want us to know. You're going to do what the billionaire psychopaths want you to? Or are you going to create your own reality? We are the dev team. We want to tweak that reality. We can. We just have to believe we can and then understand some of the basic mechanisms of it. Oh my God, I sound like CNN. I'm not telling you guys learn to code, but learn to code. God bless and Godspeed.